Hi guys, in our last video we talked about the Mixolydian mode, and now that we have a basic understanding of modes and what they are, we can now start to talk about how to use modes. So one of the ways we can use modes, of course, is to write a song in an entire mode, right? We can write a Mixolydian song. But there are a couple of other ways that we can go about using our knowledge of modes to write really beautiful chord progressions that don't fully commit to writing in a completely different mode. So the technique we're going to look at here is a technique called modal borrowing. And what modal borrowing is when you write a song that's basically either in the major key or the minor key, but at certain moments in the song, for 1 bar or half a bar or 2 bars, which is to say just for a snippet of your song, you borrow chords from a parallel mode. Okay, so let me give you an example of that. If I'm writing a song in the key of G major, what are my chords? My chords are G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and F sharp diminished. Those are my diatonic chords in the key of G major. Let's now look at the parallel mode of G Aeolian. So let's remember that Aeolian simply means the natural minor. And when I'm talking about a parallel mode, what I mean is that the first chord and the first note is the same as the other mode or the other scale that I'm talking about. So I'm talking about the parallel G Aeolian. I'm still in the key of G, but I want to know what my palette of chords are in G Aeolian or G minor. Okay, and here are the chords in the key of G minor. We have G minor, A diminished, B flat major, C minor, D minor, E flat major, and F major. So those are my diatonic chords in the G Aeolian mode. So what I'm going to do with modal borrowing is this. I'm going to start out writing my song in the key of G using chords diatonic to the key of G. And then I'm going to borrow a chord from the parallel G Aeolian mode, right? For 1 bar or 2 bars or even half a bar, I'm going to borrow one of those chords. So for example, I might write a chord progression that has G and A minor in it and C major in it, and then I might stick in a C minor chord, right? A 4 minor chord, and then I go back to G major. So at no point am I actually in the key of G minor. I'm merely borrowing a chord from the parallel minor, right? And one thing to make really clear here is it doesn't have to be the G minor chord. Yeah, I can borrow any of the chords from the G minor scale or G minor key, and I'm still borrowing from the G minor mode, right? G Aeolian. So let me play that example for you. Okay, so here I've got the G chord. I'm going to play A minor, C, C minor, G. I'll do it again. So that 4 minor chord is a really common but really beautiful example of modal borrowing, where we're borrowing the minor 4 that comes from the parallel G Aeolian mode, and that's modal borrowing. Let's look at a couple of song examples that do exactly this, that borrow the 4 minor chord from the parallel Aeolian mode, okay? So one that occurs to me is the Beatles song In My Life. So it's a song, we'll play it in the key of A because it's nice to play it down here. So the chord progression is this in the key of A. A major, E major, F sharp minor, D major, D minor, back to A major. There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed. So what we have here in the key of A is the 1 chord, the 5 chord, the 6 minor chord, then we go to the 4 chord, which in the key of A is D major, and then we go to D minor, which we call the 4 minor, back to 1. And we understand that 4 minor as being an example of modal borrowing. Another song example that comes to mind is the song Creep by Radiohead, which is a song in the key of G major. So the first chord is G major. The next chord is B major, which is not diatonic to G major, but let's ignore that for a second, okay? Because then we go to C major, which really is in the key of G. So it's just the 4 major chord, and then it goes to the 4 minor chord, right? I'm a creep, the widow, what the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. Right, so really nice example of 4 major to the parallel borrowed chord of 4 minor. So it's so beautiful, that borrowing of the 4 minor chord, and we can understand that as being modal borrowing. So that's the concept of modal borrowing. There are other examples in the links below, as well as a Spotify playlist of other modal borrowing songs, which we'll talk about later. Fingers crossed. All right, thanks, bye.